the finishing, the yep isn't really. And you wouldn't know it. She used to be a gymnast when she was growing up. So she was used to sticking the landing. We're going to have to work on that. But great job and great hands. Hopefully you saw something on there that will be helpful. We weren't originally going to use a PowerPoint for this, but we thought that having it up on the screen might reinforce some of the points that we were talking about. In MyFitnessPal, somebody asked about that. There's hopefully some things that y'all can take away, because one of the things that one of my first businesses that I was working in, my first boss told me that you never suggest a problem without also suggesting a solution. Right. So we didn't want to come here and just talk about don't do this, don't do that. We wanted consciously to say, here's some things to do to help. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Now we're going to focus on psychological wellness, that emotional wellness, the stuff that's kind of between your ears and what's happening at home. It's a tremendous impact on your ability to be productive, your ability to be familial and collegial. So there's some techniques associated with this. I was here on Sunday and heard Brett speak. Were y'all here for that? Yeah. Really cool guy, great story. The fact that he walked across the country, east to west, and then up to Maine, just amazing. And some of the stuff he's got going on. But he mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy. Have y'all ever heard that before? Y'all done that? It's really, really helpful. And I'm friends. How I got smart on these different things isn't because I'm a clinician, because I'm not. Sometimes when people hear me talk, they think I'm a pharmacist or a doctor or an attorney based on the subject matter. But I'm not. I've just been in the industry. I've spoken to a number of people. I've broken bread with the smartest MDs and DOs and psychologists and psychiatrists, physical therapists, nurses around the country. I've really kind of soaked up stuff from them, and I've learned through osmosis. And one of the things they consistently say is cognitive behavioral therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a different derivation of that, or motivational interviewing, is really, really important. But the behavioral psychologist that's one of my clinical mentors, she said that CBT is not talking therapy, because sometimes if you Google CBT, it says talking therapy, because you're kind of talking out loud what your problems are, and you come to the conclusion, you kind of figure out yourself. Right? If you've been through CBT, you know it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of homework, it's a lot of sharing, sometimes it's a lot of crying as it starts uncovering different things, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going on there. But my clinical mentor, one of my best friends, behavioral psychologist, said cognitive behavioral therapy is not talking therapy, it's doing therapy. Right? It can't just be about talking what's wrong. And talking out loud and articulating your issues is really important, but it's about taking that talk and turning it into walk, turning it into things that you can do differently, right? To focus on your emotion, your psychological wellness. So you should practice gratitude. That negativity, have y'all ever been in that cycle of negativity? Have you ever done something stupid? I do it all the time. Have you ever done something so stupid that you keep kicking yourself in the butt over and over and over again because you go, I can't believe I did that, I can't believe I did that, I can't believe I did that, right? That cycle of negativity goes down, right? The more you dwell on the negativity, the more negative you are. The more you're around negative people, the more negative you are. You got to break that cycle. And the easiest way to break that cycle is by practicing gratitude. I don't care who you are. I don't care what situation you're in. I don't care how much money's in your bank account. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care what kind of haircut you have. I don't care what kind of clothes you got. You have something to be grateful for. Right? Everybody can find at least one thing to be grateful for. And that's what we can do from a psychological wellness and emotional wellness, is when you get into that negative mindset and you start kicking yourself for doing stupid stuff, you've got to break out of that cycle and find something to focus on that you can be grateful for. And that will reverse the trend from going down to the negative cycle to going up the positivity cycle. Y'all get that? Yeah. That's easy to talk about, right? Yeah. It's harder to do. Right? When you're in that negative cycle, woe is me, right? It's very easy to convince yourself that you are the dumbest human being on the planet Earth because of what you did. Well, guess what? You're not the dumbest person on planet Earth. I can guarantee you're going to find somebody else that's dumber than you, that did more stupid stuff than you. Right? You get really comfortable and proud of your car, and you pull up to the stoplight, and somebody else's car that's better than yours drops by. You were laughing. You've been there, right? Been there. It's like, I'm really proud. I got a great car. I got a Ford, what do I got? Ford Fusion. And then a guy in a BMW walks up. It's like, well, so much for that, right? So you got to get out of that practicing negativity and practicing gratitude and focus on positivity. Mindfulness is really important. Have y'all heard that term? Yeah. Oftentimes mindfulness is equated to meditation. I'm not talking about going out at Sedona and staring at crystals. That's not the mindfulness and the meditation I'm talking about. Mindfulness is being present. Mindfulness is knowing who you are and where you are at that particular time. And mindfulness, in large part, is forgetting about the past, not worrying about the future, and focusing on right here, right now, this millisecond. I have tried to convince the insurance industry to pay for mindfulness training, and they're very resistant because it gets really squishy, right? But I tell them there's science behind this. And y'all know that. If y'all practice mindfulness, you know that, right? There's, I think it's called a lack of talking sabbatical. There's a more official name for it. But I had dinner with some doctors down in Orlando at a conference I was speaking at. And we were talking to me, and this one physician said, I went to a 7-day sabbatical where I couldn't say anything. He took his girlfriend. Girlfriend wasn't a big fan. She was complaining. She was talking like the first 2 or 3 days, right? But then eventually she got it. And she understood the introspection from not focusing on what you're talking about, but focusing on who you are, focusing on that very moment, on that breath in, on that breath out. That was valuable. And she didn't talk. I couldn't last more than 15 minutes. But I think that that is valuable in that. So practicing mindfulness. As Christians, a form of mindfulness is prayer. Right? That's how we communicate with our God. That's how we focus on where we're at. So figuring out how to do that, how you make that happen. And then deep diaphragmatic breathing. Y'all know that we wouldn't have as many people on planet Earth if women hadn't been taught the Lamaze method. Right? And we definitely wouldn't have we wouldn't have the same amount of population if guys were the ones that got pregnant, right? That would not work. So just let that soak in. So what is the Lamaze method? It's deep diaphragmatic breathing. Y'all are starting to do it, right? Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale it slowly. It releases endorphins. It reduces stress. It puts you in a good place. According to Happy Gilmore, it takes you to your happy place. Right? It's really important, deep diaphragmatic breathing. A good friend of mine is an incomplete quadriplegic. She rolled her car out in Montana. It actually ended up being a workers' comp injury because she was driving in the course of duty of her job. She broke her neck. She still has a broken neck. She is in pain from the moment that she wakes up in the morning until the moment she goes to sleep, if she can sleep that night. She went down the opioid route, which is what I've been focusing on since 2003, the overprescribing of opioids for pain that really shouldn't be prescribed here, that created the opioid epidemic that's transitioned to heroin and fentanyl and carfentanil and all those different things, right? It all kind of started in the mid-1990s with the overprescribing. She went down that route, and then she finally figured out that I can manage this pain without drugs. She does not take a single drug at this juncture. I was speaking in Montana, and that's where she lived at the time. And I decided after I had done my presentation in the morning, I was going to go out hiking. It's Big Sky, Montana. If you've ever been there, it literally is Big Sky. It's like 7,000 foot elevation. So we decided to hike. Okay, this is an incomplete quadriplegic, all right? She's got a broken neck. She's in constant pain. She doesn't take drugs. In fact, she says her analgesia is the treadmill. Her anti-anxiety drug is hiking outside. For 2 hours over 3.1 miles incline like this, she kept up with me.
That's amazing.
Don't tell me that you can't overcome. And one of her tools is deep diaphragmatic breathing. That breathing in through the nose, holding it, and then letting it out. You do that 3 or 4 times, all of a sudden, things don't seem so bad. Have y'all ever had to get up and speak in public before?
Yeah. It ain't fun.
It ain't fun. That's a tool that they teach. Do some deep diaphragmatic breathing for a while. Get yourself under control. So those are some techniques. Let's talk about some takeaways. Focus on fitness, brain and body. If you focus on physical fitness, on your body, and forget your brain, forget your emotions, forget your psychological health, you are not going to be well in the holistic sense. So focusing on fitness from a brain and body standpoint, gain from pain. I know that sounds weird, but you can actually use pain as a propellant. Because you want to get as far away from that pain as humanly possible, and that will help you endure the difficult times that it takes to transition out of pain into not pain. Does that make sense?
I guess.
You guess. I get you. I appreciate the honesty. It sounds good, right? You can gain from pain. And it's not that easy, right? When you're in pain.
How do you gain from a toothache pain?
Well, okay. Yeah, I know. I understand. And there, I'm talking a little bit beyond that. Like emotional pain. Like, for example, I was scheduled to speak at a company in Minneapolis, well, actually Owatonna, Minnesota. I pulled into the parking lot. I got a call from my mom and her pastor that my dad was being transitioned from the hospital to hospice. And you know what that means, right? So I bawled like a baby for 10 minutes. I have never cried like that before in my life. I got myself together. I cleaned myself up. I went into the office. I did my thing. They didn't know that I had just basically gotten the news that my dad was dying. In fact, I would not be the RX professor if it weren't for my dad and the pain that came from that. So when I'm talking about propelling from pain, it's not necessarily a toothache. It's that pain that's going, I don't want that. Y'all been through addiction? You understand pain, right? You can gain from pain by not doing that again.
Yes.
And one of the things I have learned, because my LinkedIn and social and Twitter accounts, more than half of them don't have anything to do with workers' compensation. They're followers from other people. And I've gotten to know people who are in active recovery. And one of the things I've always seen is that they pay it forward. In fact, that is the 12th step, right? It's not a coincidence that everybody that I run into that is in successful recovery is helping somebody else. That's where the gain from pain can come from. Because you can get self-esteem by helping someone else that's not as far along as you. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. I appreciate the honesty. I'm just one of you guys, right? So pay it forward. Go from a mentee to a mentor. Y'all get the difference? A mentee is accepting help. A mentor is helping someone else. That's how you pay it forward. Focusing on that. And then finding your gift. What is your gift? Do you know what your gift is? And I'm not necessarily talking about spiritual gifts, which we get as Christians. I'm talking about your gift, your purpose for life. So what I want to do is to finish off with how to be healthy. Rachel, tell us how to find yourself, find your gifts.
Alright, so since 7th grade, I wanted to be a PT, a physical therapist. I have been to PT countless times for, can't even tell you how many different injuries. Thank you, soccer. But I was applying to different PT schools, 6 to be exact, in Georgia, my senior year at Georgia Southern, and I didn't get into any of them. I was crushed because that was my life goal, you know. Then the next month, after I got my last rejection letter, we had a grad school fair, and the recruiter from Life University was there, and he was explaining to me the Master's of Exercise Science, and I was like, at the time I was like, well, I guess, you know, I had a goal of having a second degree, so I guess I'll just go for this Master's, and it ended up being the best decision of my life. The end of my Master's, I had a test on stress test. And when I was in that class, my friend and I were like, we're never doing this. This is the most stressful thing ever. This is dumb. I don't see how people do this. And here I am. That's my job. So.
Yeah, and the prayer that y'all had was when one door closes, another one opens. Exactly. So find yourself. If you don't know who you are right now, figure it out. Because every single person in this room has purpose, has value, and can be a life-changing event for someone else. Find yourself.
Do y'all know Thomas Rhett?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Love him. His song "Life Changes." This verse came up to me as soon as he had me say this. You never know what's going to happen. Make your plans and you hear God laughing. Life changes, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
So find yourself. Know yourself. Find your purpose. I'm 57 years old. It took me until I was 52 years old to find my purpose. I got it now. And I'm on this magic carpet ride until God takes me home. Find your purpose. Find who you are. Know yourself.